Hello everyone. So someone asked for the 2018-2019 final in C1103 for the recording of the solution, and this is it. Okay? In principle, I will try to do as much as I can of this session. I will also separate it into different videos, but we'll see how much we can do in one session. So like I said, hints for the exam. We're gonna do this in a way that I explain all the concepts there is. So this is not gonna be time efficient. Remember that when you study the material, it would take you less time when you become very familiar with the material, okay? So, like I said, the beginning is to get familiar with all the exam. Make sure that the answer sheet or the answer booklet is present. Make sure that the number of pages is also present, all of it. And just simply read the introduction. In the introduction, they say that this is going to be a 14-page exam. The questions are on the first 13 pages, I think, because this exam is not recto verso, so they're not doing both pages of a single paper. And the answer sheet is on page 14. Once you finish with every page, go to the answer sheet. It could be the last page, it could be the first page, it depends, it doesn't really matter. Go to the answer and just simply cross out. ما تتركوها للآخر لأنه عادة اللي بيصير إنه لما بتبلشوا تعبوا answers in one sitting, you make a mistake. You start to fold them and you skip one number and كل شيء بيكون shifted. So when you finish one page, fill in the answers and double check. So for C1103, this is a multiple choice question exam. It means that you will have only one answer. Okay? And they usually say that the one best answer, because there might be a probability that you have more than one answer, just choose the one that you are sure of. Basically, that's it. Let's start with number one. Number one, normally in all the exam, what they do is that they start with the questions that are based on just theory before they go into calculations. So remember, theoretical questions, you don't have to go that much into detail. So in number one, they state that you have hypochlorous acid, which is HOCl. If you don't know it, it's okay. It's always written. And if it's not written, if the reaction is not written, take a rule. Acids are HA. Okay, bases are either A minus or B, whatever it is that you're comfortable with working. And in case that you don't know if it's a weak acid or a strong acid, always check for the pKa if you have it given, the Ka if you have it given, because this will tell you whether it's weak or strong, or check if you have this, because this is a clear indication that your acid is a weak acid. Weak acid, it means that they dissociate partially in solution, normally according to pKa, and they are governed by an equilibrium. So basically, I can shift the reaction with that equilibrium if I change any condition on the left hand or the right hand side. So this is HOCl. Which one of the following statements correctly describe the resulting effect of the concentration of HOCl? So that means what happens to HOCl if you add ClO minus. It doesn't need a lot of things. When you add ClO minus, it means that you are increasing the concentration of ClO minus. This reaction is controlled by an equilibrium. It means that the reaction will equilibrate. The system will shift to compensate that شو ما كانت تكون, whether it's excess, whether it's loss, if it's an increase in temperature, an increase in pressure, the equilibrium has to shift. So that means because we increase the concentration of ClO minus, the equilibrium will shift to decrease it, to go back to its equilibrium state. To decrease it, yani the reaction has to shift backward. What happens when it shifts backward is that the concentration of HOCl will definitely increase. That's it. I don't have to do anything else. So simply search for the correct answer, which is the concentration of HOCl increases. That's your correct answer. That's number 1. Good. Again, which of the following acids does not form a salt with acid-base properties? So just to review, salts. What are salts? Salts are solids that dissociate in water. It depends whether they dissociate completely or they dissociate partially, whether they have acid-base properties. هون بنروح للإكوليبريم constant. For salts it's KSP. If they have acid-base properties, it's basically Ka. Okay? The acid itself. So salts. هون بس theory. I'm not going into the question yet because questions should not take this long. I'm going to give an example. A salt is KCl. KCl dissociates completely in water to give K plus Cl minus. If I look at K plus and Cl minus, K plus and Cl minus do not have any, in water أكيد, do not have any acid or basic properties in water. That means they don't dissociate into Ha3O plus or HO minus. They have no effect on the pH. They are spectator ions. So this is not a salt with acid-base properties. If I take another salt like Na, CH3, CO, and A, this is a salt. When it dissociates in water, it gives you CH3COO minus plus Na plus. Na plus is basically also a spectator because it doesn't have any effect on the pH of the system. But when you look at CH3COO minus, this can actually dissociate in water, أكيد reversibly, to give you CH3COOH and HO minus. Basic properties. So this salt has acid-base properties. Very good. So now let's go back to the question. Which of the following salts will have acid-base properties with NaOH? Let's look at each one. You have to react. NaOH is basically HO minus, remember that. H3PO4 with HO minus to give you H2PO4 minus. Okay, أكيد with Na, so هيدي بتصير Na. This has acid-base properties. When you go to the same thing with, خليني أحط NaOH حتى ما نغلط. Basically what happens is that the OH and one of the protons will give off H2O. What you will get is NaHCO3. هيدا هو salt. This salt would dissociate in water to give HCO3 minus, which has acid-base properties. So it's also not this one. Hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is basically HCl plus NaOH. When these two react, what happens is that the H plus and the HO minus will give off H2O. What you have left is NaCl. NaCl is a salt. It does not dissociate into anything that has acid-base properties. So it's hydrochloric acid. Again, it's taking me a long time to actually solve this because I'm trying to explain concepts. But for you, whenever you see a diprotic or a triprotic acid or a base, know that this one will give off a salt that has acid-base properties. Okay, or when you have something weak. You have a lot of examples like this from your answer sheet, so remember that.